Hi, I'm Eddie Traynor, Head of Cyber and Compliance for Softworx, and today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Rich Massey from Arcserve. Rich is VP of EMEA and North, and Rich, thank you very much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Eddie, for inviting me. Looking forward to speaking today.
Excellent, excellent. So today we're here to talk about backup, replication, recovery, etc., etc. And the more we talk to clients, we get a couple of questions, a couple of the same questions crop up time after time after time. And the main question at the moment is ransomware. People they're reading about it all the time in the press. They're worried obviously about their own reputations. They're worried about their own data being encrypted and having to pay some kind of ransom. So in terms of what we can do between obviously Softworx and Arcserve, what we can offer out there. I mean, what is the Arcserve answer to ransomware?
Eddie, ransomware, we hear it every single day. Almost every single client that we speak to as well, it's the same thing. Ransomware is so prevalent now, and people are trying to get at data, and it's not just data on site. It's data that's stored as a backup as well that they're trying to get at now to hold the clients to ransom. It's crazy. And some of the figures that we've heard now, the latest that we heard was that the average ransom that's actually paid is over $44,000 or £35,000, which is crazy. And there's companies that are actually paying the ransom. The advice is don't pay the ransom, right? No. And my advice and Arcserve's advice is don't pay the ransom. Make sure you're protected in the first place. And in terms of doing that, that's not just about backup. That's not just about the way that you protect the data from that point of view. It's about security as well. And between Arcserve and you guys, you can help with that as well. Security is the first thing, and we teamed up with Softworx to provide the first line of defense, if you like, in terms of protection. But we know that out there now that it's always changing, the landscape as well, and ransomware is changing, and it does get into the environment and it does get into the production data. And the key is to make sure that you're actually protecting your data and not just backing it up on site. It's following a real set of rules, right? And these rules are the kind of rules that everybody should pay attention to. These are the rules that everybody should be aware of. And the first one is security. Make sure security is there. Make sure you have something protecting your environment so that the attackers can't get through. And if they do, then it's about backup. Making sure that you've got at least 3 copies of your data. The best practice out there is to have 3 copies. One will be your production data, of course, and then have 2 other copies of the data as well that are actually on different formats as well. So one can be disk, one can be tape, and one could be cloud as well. But the really important piece is to separate your second copy, if you like, from the original copy, so that if something does get in, if an attacker does get in, then you have a version that you can go back to that is offsite. It's somewhere else, and that can be tape. It's still very relevant, although people don't talk about it as much now, especially against ransomware. If you want to go back to a copy of data that's not connected, tape is a great way of doing it. And of course, the other way of doing it is cloud, and you have a copy of your data that's not on your premise, it's somewhere else in the cloud, whether that's public cloud or even in the Arcserve cloud with what we do as well in our hybrid cloud. Having those multiple copies is a way to recover. Don't pay the ransom. Recover the data. Yeah. Have a plan in place. Yeah.
Yep. Got you. Because the thing that most people don't realise is when they pay that ransom, so that £35,000, for example, that goes straight back into, say, the dark web, or funding, drugs or people trafficking or arms or that those kinds of activities. So it's not just a case of you pay the ransom, get your data back, and then everybody lives happily ever after. There's ramifications thereafter.
That's right. These are your modern day criminals. These are your modern day thieves, if you like. Yeah. Right? Yeah. They haven't got a bag that says swag on it anymore. They've got a keyboard and a computer and some software to do this with instead to take your money. That's
so the old days, the swag bag has been replaced by the padded rucksack, laptop rucksack.
That's it. That's right.
But so there's apart from the business obligations to protect your data, there's some moral obligations as well, not to remotely get yourself sucked into that world where you've inadvertently funded something that all you wanted was your data back, but that's what you've done.
Absolutely. If you're paying a ransom, you can imagine, and every day hundreds and hundreds of organizations are paying the ransom because they want to get their data back, and they haven't put anything in place to protect themselves. There's no first line of defense from security, and they can't recover the data, so they're paying the ransom. Mm-hmm. They haven't got themselves organized in advance to recover from this, and it's very simple. Like I say, have another copy offsite that can't be touched by ransomware. Yeah. That is the really key thing to doing it, and don't pay the ransom.
So inadvertently, by protecting your data using Arcserve via Softworx, you're actually inadvertently using best practice at the same time.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, and as I say, doing it right is having it have it on disk first of all. Copy it to disk. Have a backup on disk. That's fine. But then make sure that you are moving that, and our appliances can protect it to disk, and it has Softworx at the front end built into it as well, so that you've got Softworx to protect you at the front end. You've got the disk built into the appliance. You can also recover from that appliance as well, should anything happen, of course. And then the next step, move it from that appliance into the cloud if you want to, public cloud, or the Arcserve cloud as well, which is also secured by Softworx as well. Should you need it in the cloud, and also or use tape if people don't want to use the cloud, because I know there's still people out there that don't want to use the cloud. Use tape. Go traditional. It still has a very strong use case, especially in the fight against ransomware.
But brilliant. No, thanks, Rich. And then I guess the last big question that crops up time after time is the 365 question, because especially during 2020, when the whole world has obviously changed, businesses have gone pretty much 365. What happens with your 365? Are you protected by Microsoft? Is that data protected, or do you have to look at make your own arrangements effectively?
So 365 is a big topic. I think right now more and more people are rolling out 365, especially just now we're seeing more remote workers, and 365 has been pushed quicker into clients' infrastructure. Yep. And nobody's really thought about what happens to the data. Everybody is assuming that Microsoft is protecting the data. Okay. Now, what I always ask people is, to check with Microsoft. Have a look at what Microsoft actually says. Have a look and see if Microsoft are actually protecting your data and what they're doing. Microsoft actually operate what they call a lot of software companies do this, a shared responsibility model, and they're saying to you that actually we'll have your data, we've got your data, that's our responsibility to protect your data, and you know what, if something happens to your data and it's our fault, that's our responsibility. But if you look at their shared responsibility documents, that responsibility for backup is the customer's responsibility. Right? It's not their responsibility for protecting the data. If you asked Microsoft, is my data protected? They say yes, absolutely. But actually, it's only for a very short amount of time that they actually will protect your data and be able to recover it. Because you stick it in the recycle bin, they keep it for 14 days.
Yeah.
Sometimes up to 30 days, depending on what contract you're on. But that is it. And I would say to people, ask Microsoft how long they keep the data for. Because it's not for very, very long, and it's your responsibility as a customer to be able to protect it. So if we look at Microsoft's service agreement, and I would encourage all your clients to look at their service availability agreement, and it actually states in there that from a backup point of view, you should actually use a third party to protect the data. And that's Microsoft themselves saying that. And I think a lot of people assume that Microsoft have got them, right? They've got the safety net of Microsoft. Microsoft looking after it. It's fine, no problem. Microsoft themselves will say to you, find a third party to back it up because we're not actually going to protect it. Yeah. And I think with those statements from Microsoft, everyone needs to take a look now at how they protect their data. So if you think back before 365 and you were protecting your data on premise, think about what you wanted to do with Exchange. Think about all those cases where you might have needed to go and recover an individual email, go and recover some documents. How easy is that to do from Office 365 in the cloud right now? It's not that easy. I'll tell you that, right? Yeah. Microsoft don't make it very easy to go and recover. And searching for something, if you've got, I don't know, a legal case or something like that, where you have to go and trawl through emails, using Microsoft tools to go and do that through the back of Office 365 is a big challenge, right? If you've got something like Arcserve protection for 365, then you can use the search tools in Arcserve to go and find something, and we protect it as long as you want to protect the data. If you want to keep that data for a year, 2 years, 3 years, that's fine. Put it on a backup tool like Arcserve for sure.
Yeah, now that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Do you see that from your customers? I mean, Eddie, do your customers actually, are they thinking about backup when they're looking at Office 365, or are they?
In my experience, what people are doing is they're spinning up 365 and then they're thinking about backup as an afterthought.
Yeah.
And then when it comes down to it, once the dust settles and the 365's up and running, it's working very, very well, and people are using it the way it's designed, and it is a fantastic tool. Then the question crops up, right? Well, what happens if? And there has been a couple of outages earlier on this year. There was a couple of quite significant outages, and that really got people thinking. So it's great to hear that there is, that there are solutions out there, and what we'd love to do, and to everybody that's listening to this, what we'd love to do is have a further conversation with you about 365, obviously about ransomware, about best practice. These are the kind of things that we'd love to talk to everyone about in a little bit more detail. And there are numbers and contact details to follow. So please reach out to us. But Rich, it's been really insightful. It's been really educational, and really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. Thanks to everybody for watching this, and really hope to speak to everybody soon.
Absolute pleasure, Eddie. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Speak to you again soon. Take care. Rich. Good day.